So today I thought it would be kind of fun to switch gears a little bit and talk about some portrait photography rather than automotive photography. I have this photo that I took. We can look up here. So it was taken at f4 with a 70 to 200 at 200 millimeters, 1/320th of a second. So it was basically outside. We were in kind of open shade behind this building. You can see even with the 70 to 200, with it being at f4, we still got some really good background blur. I think the reason that I shot this one at f4 was just so I had both eyes perfectly sharp. So not a bad photo. Since we were in kind of that shade area, I think I had it on auto white balance. So right now the photo's looking a little blue. So I think what we want to do first off is change this to shade. And instantly you can see that that made it a lot better. So that took the skin tone and actually made it quite a bit warmer, warmed up the wood a little bit, just overall more pleasing to the eye. I think we can go through some of these settings really fast, and then we'll jump into Photoshop and go through some of the steps that I do on most every portrait that I retouch. So let's just buzz through this really fast. I think the exposure overall is really good. We might be able to open up the shadows just a little bit. Come over to detail. We can sharpen that just a bit. It already has the mask on. We don't really need any noise reduction. I think we're okay here. We'll tone the image a little bit in Photoshop, so I don't think we really need to worry about that. I always like a little post-crop vignetting, so I think we'll pop that down a little bit. I think that's about it that we want to do in here. So let's open this up. So here we are. It's important with portraits, I've found, that I always make a background copy. That way when you go back, you can see if you've gone too far with something. So you can always compare it to the baseline. So I always make a new layer. And a lot of times with portrait photography, I don't really want to work on that layer. I want to work on a layer above that, so like a blank layer. So I think usually what I do first is pick an area, whether it be blemishes or things like that, and then I start working on those. So let's say we want to take care of some blemishes. We would want to make a new layer. So we click our new layer icon here, and then let's grab our clone stamp tool, and we can go in and we can see there's a little blemish here. So we would just make this smaller, click, and then paint over that. And then same thing down here. There's some, it looks like there's some stuff on the lips, so we can get rid of some of this, just some of the chapped lips. So we'll come in, and I'm just reselecting as I go and painting on it. And then same thing here. And it looks like there's some kind of stray thing there. Another one up here. Now, big thing with portrait photography is you don't, unless you're specifically asked to take things out, like moles and things like that, you don't really want to remove those. It's kind of character for people, so I would say leave those unless you're specifically asked to retouch them. Some of this stuff, though, we can get rid of. And then up here as well. And then we can zoom out. Looks like we got a little something in here. So we'll just clean up these black spots a little bit. Same thing here. And another thing you can do, if you don't want to do those on its own layer, so you can see what we just did there. So really quick touch up. What you can do is, if you want to retouch directly on that, so we'll merge that down. Now we're on the layer that we copied. So you can also go into here and grab your spot healing brush or your healing brush tool. The difference between these two tools is the healing brush tool, you will select where you want it to sample from. So you want to select a nearby skin texture because all of the texture on the face is a little bit different. So you can see up here, these lines go this way. On the nose, the texture goes up and down. When you get into here, it goes more at an angle. When you get into the eyes, it swoops down. So all of this texture is going different ways. So when you select, you want to select an area around that Photoshop will sample. You don't necessarily want to sample from the cheek and then clone something onto the forehead. Now, what the spot healing brush will do is Photoshop will examine an area around where you're painting, and it will try to make the best estimate of what you're trying to do or what it needs to get rid of. So it does it for you, so you don't have to constantly option select an area to get rid of. So I think overall that is pretty good for blemish retouching. Again, all of these freckles and moles, we're not going to take care of those. Those are kind of the character that she has on her face, so we want to leave that. So you can see what we did before and after. Not a huge difference, but it got rid of some of those imperfections or blemishes. All right, so from there, let's work on the eyes. So what we want to do is, I'll show you the easiest way to do this, and we just want to brighten up her eyes a little bit and bring some attention to that. So let's make a duplicate of this layer. We'll change this blending mode from normal to screen, as you can see, that brighten the image. So we want to put a mask on that. So we'll option and click our layer mask. We're going to get a brush tool, and we're going to come in nice and close to the eye. So then with the eye, we really want to focus just on the inside portion with this. So we have a dark portion here, we have a dark portion in the middle. We want to brighten this area right in here. So what we're going to do with a white brush is we're going to just paint right in here. And then we'll come over to the other side and we'll paint right in there. And if you zoom out, that looks ridiculous. It's way too much. So we're not retouching for a Twilight series portrait. We are gonna lower this way down. So we just want a little kick of light in there. So maybe like 40%. So on and off. So it just kind of turned the lights on in the eyes there. So if you come out even further, before and after. We're gonna do the same thing. We can actually just make a copy of this one. So we'll hit Command J. We're going to fill this mask with black, so we're going to hit X to switch our foreground color to black, and we'll hit Alt-Delete. That will fill that layer mask, and then we're going to go in and we're going to brighten up the whites of the eyes. So we will get our brush tool. We will hit X to bring white as our foreground color, and we're just going to paint right in here to brighten up that whites of the eye. And again, it's going to be way too much right out of the gate. So we're just going to paint on it. We're going to zoom back and we're going to lower that down even further. So probably about 20%. And again, if you turn it off and on. So that just brings some attention to the eyes, helps brighten them up a little bit. Again, we didn't have flash kicking into her face and her eyes. So there was a little bit of shadow naturally from both her hair and her eyebrows. So we just want to bring some light back into there. One more thing, let's use that same trick. So let's make a stamp visible layer. So Command Option Shift and E. Then let's change that to screen. Again, let's put a black layer mask on it. And then we're going to go into our brush tool again. We're going to make this nice and big. And let's paint some highlights into her hair. So everywhere where it's kind of bright, we're going to go in and we're just going to paint over that. And again, this looks kind of fake and bad, but we'll go into here and we're going to drop that opacity way down. So let's bring it about 50%. Let's toggle it off and on. Maybe even down a little bit more. So it's just helped to bring some depth to the hair. So I think that looks pretty good. Let's see what this looks like. Maybe warm her face up just a little bit more. So if you come into here, there's something called a photo filter, and they have a warming filter. So you can click on that, and let's click, let's fill that mask with black. So we'll just bring black as our foreground color, hit Option Delete, and let's get a brush, and let's brush that just on her skin and see what it looks like. So that helps warm up the face just a little bit. Very subtle, but I think it looks pretty good. I think to help bring some more attention into her face, because really she's the darkest thing in the frame, and I want to bring some more attention in. Let's make a curved layer, and let's bring this down. And then we're going to fill that with black again. And then let's get a brush tool, nice and big, and let's paint in white just on the sides here. Help bring some attention into the face. And then at the same time, I think let's take this and let's raise this up a little bit. And let's do the same thing, but we're going to fill this with black again. And then we're going to go to our gradient tool, and with white as our foreground color, and we're going to click the second option right here and also the second option here, and this is going to be our radial gradient. So what this radial gradient is going to do is it's going to just paint that white right in the middle of the face, so we can see what that layer mask did. So it just brightens up the face ever so slightly. I think the next thing I want to do is let's make a merged visible layer. And then we're going to come up here to filter. We're going to go to other, and we're going to go to high pass. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sharpen, but we're only going to sharpen specific areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep this radius down to 2. If you can look in here, you can see just a faint outline of her eyes and hair and things like that. So we're going to hit OK. And then we get this gray layer. So if I zoom in, you can see some of that texture in the face and in the hair. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change that blending layer to soft light. So if we look at the eyes before, let me really zoom in here. So before and after, you can see how it just sharpened that area. Now we don't want that all over. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a layer mask on that, and then we're going to paint in white. So we'll get our brush tool, make that smaller, and we just want to paint right over those eyes. Maybe over the eyebrows, and maybe even over the front of the hair here. So we're just going to sharpen those elements right there. Now the cool thing is, with that layer, if you want it even sharper, you can duplicate it a couple times because you're just sharpening those areas. So if we put that in a folder here, and we go into the eyes, so you can see before and after. So it just helps really sharpen those eyes and really makes them pop. I think one more thing that I would like to do on this is let's make another merged visible layer. So Command Option Shift E again. And Photoshop has some of these blur galleries. So let's try maybe an iris blur. So what this is going to allow us to do is bring just a little bit more attention to the face and kind of throw the background out of focus just a little bit. So you have control points here. So this outer control point is where the blur will start. From here to here is where it starts, and then it really starts to ramp up. So if you bring this out some, bring this in, and then we bring the blur up, you can see that transition point. So nothing inside of this is being affected. So we want her nice and sharp, but I think we want to bring some more attention to her. So let's go ahead and apply that and see what it looks like. So there you can see now we've gotten this front to match what we had in the back just a little bit more. And now the good thing about this being on its own layer is if it's too much on the shoulder, you can put a layer mask on that. Go in with a brush. Make the brush a little bit bigger, paint in black, and you can just brush some of that away. So I think that's a pretty good stopping point for this image. So if we hit Command-Option-Shift-E to get a final copy, let's take all of these, put them in a group. Let's turn that group off, and then let's look at what we did before and after. So before and then after. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully some of these techniques you can implement in your own work. If you have any questions, like always, leave them in the comments below. Thanks.